Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular scheduled school board meeting for October 7th, 2014. Welcome, everyone. If you would like to speak during our hearing of citizens, please pick up a card to my left in the rear of the room, fill it out completely and legibly, and return it to Ms. Marshall over to my left. And then I will call you at the appropriate time to speak for 3 minutes at the podium to the right. You will be allowed the 3 minutes, and note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Would you all join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance under the direction of Sarasota High School's Color Guard and Senior Army Instructor Kevin Holt? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job. Thank you, Sarasota High School. I think our student representative is a little late with the weather and the inclement weather. Thank you all for being here because it took much more effort tonight. Oh, and there he is. Hi, Joe. We have a seat for you next to the superintendent. Thanks for being here. Oh, no, that's not a problem at all. I am just delighted that you're here. The weather is certainly not cooperating. Can you welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, all right. I'm Joe Gallagher. I'm a senior at Suncoast Polytech. I'm also the student class president. That's about it.
And what are your plans after high school? Because as senior, I'm sure that you're thinking about next year.
Yeah, I want to continue my career in film, and I'm hoping to go to Full Sail University and hopefully be able to go there and pursue my dream for film.
Great. Welcome again. Thanks for being here. We'll move on now to special presentations, and we have some wonderful presentations tonight. First of all, I'd like to call forward Ms. Sonia Figueroa Alberts, the Executive Director for Pupil Support Services, to discuss the recognition of a Disability History and Awareness Instruction Week.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, Mr. Hardy, and distinguished guests. It is great celebration that bring here to you tonight the Disability History and Awareness Week. Back in 2008, it was signed into law, and it requires school districts to designate the first 2 weeks of October as a celebration for students that attend public schools. 1 of every 5 Americans is a person with disability. A person may be born with a disability, may acquire a disability, through an accident or illness, or may acquire a disability simply as part of growing older. And we're all getting there. Although disability is a natural part of life, people with disabilities have not always had access to equal opportunities. Not until 1975, with the passage of the Federal Education for All Handicapped Children Act, now known as the Individuals with Disability Education Act, did schools-age children with disabilities have a right to a free, appropriate public education. Florida started his first special education class in 1926 in Jacksonville. Since then, specially designed instruction and related services have expanded throughout Florida. Now approximately 360,000 students identify as having a disability participate in Florida's public education system. Many graduate and go on to post-secondary education employment. We are proud to participate in promoting awareness of disability history and the contributions of individuals with disability, and to designate the first 2 weeks in October for disability history and awareness. And it's true a celebration in our school district as we provide great resources and education to all our students. So I welcome to visit our schools, visit our programs, because you do not know who is who, but you do know that there are students engaged in learning and participating in all resources and opportunities. So I'm very proud to be part of this school district in celebration. Thank you.
Well, I'm proud that you're with us because you do a remarkable job. And I think we do so many wonderful things for those that have physical and mental challenges, whether they are at Oak Park or mainstreamed into our schools. We do a remarkable job.
Yes, we do, and we do celebrate that. Thank you.
So I would like to read a proclamation. A resolution designating the first 2 weeks in October Disability History and Awareness Weeks by the School Board of Sarasota County. A resolution designating the first 2 weeks in October of every year as Disability History and Awareness Weeks, and encouraging our schools and universities to provide instruction on disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement. Whereas there are approximately 375,000 students with disabilities in Florida's K-12 education system, and whereas a key method of promoting these four principles is for our schools to recognize the contributions by people with disabilities to our society and provide instruction in disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement through school curriculum, school assemblies, and other school activities, and it is desirable that state post-secondary institutions promote activities that provide education awareness and understanding regarding people with disabilities. And whereas the legislature also encourages cooperation between the school system, post-secondary institutions, and the community at large to promote better treatment and fairer hiring practices for people with disabilities. Now be it resolved by the School Board of Sarasota County that the Board urges our schools to provide intensive instruction on disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement, especially during the first 2 weeks of October and periodically throughout the school year, and encourages other institutions to conduct and promote educational activities on those subjects. Be it further resolved that the first 2 weeks in October of every year be recognized as Disability History and Awareness Weeks in Sarasota County, Florida. Any comments? Then let's move on to our second special presentation, which is the National School Lunch Week Proclamation. October 13 through 17 of 2014, Dr. Beverly Gerard, our Director of Food and Nutritional Services. I will read the proclamation first. Knowing that our school district's food service made the newspapers all over the state, I read about in the Gainesville Sun some of our meatless Mondays, and we're always a leader. Thank you, Dr. Gerard. But I will read from this first and then bring her forward. The School Board of Sarasota County, Florida Proclamation, National School Lunch Week, October 13 through 17, 2014. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation admirably for over 60 years through advanced practices and nutrition education, and whereas the National School Lunch Program is dedicated to the health and well-being of our nation's children, and whereas the National School Lunch Program has been joined through the years by many other excellent child feeding programs, and there is evidence of continued need for nutrition education and awareness of the value of school nutrition programs. Now, therefore, the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, proclaims the week of October 13 through 17, 2014, as National School Lunch Week, and we encourage all residents to become aware and concerned about their children's and their own nutritional habits in hopes of achieving a more healthful citizenry for today and the future. Mrs. Gerard, Dr. Gerard.
I just want to remind everyone, all of our board members, that we do have National School Lunch Week, October 13th, and every year we ask our board members and administrators and special guests from our community to serve lunch during National School Lunch Week out at the schools. It's a great support to our students, obviously, a wonderful support to our employees as well. I think that a lot of people in our district have come to learn exactly how hard our employees do work, spending an hour or two out serving lunch to the students. And it's a really fun activity for the students as well. Also, I want to invite you to remember that we have sorry, somebody was just trying to clue me over there. We also have a Chef's Move to School event on October 30th. It's our second annual Kids and Chefs Gala at Philippi Shores Elementary. This year we'll be working with 4 local chefs. One is Brian Jacobs. He is the founder of a Vet to Chef program where they're bringing veterans into the yes. Oh, there we are. Was I speaking all that time without? All right, there we go. Shall I start over? No, no. Oh, thank you. Okay. Anyway, we have 4 chefs who will be working with us this year. The first is Brian Jacobs. He has started a Vet to Chef program where he's bringing veterans back from active duty that once they retire are becoming chefs and learning other trades as well. He has also served and is currently serving as a personal chef to the Anheuser-Busch family. So he travels back and forth from Sarasota to St. Louis. Our wonderful chef who has really embraced Chef's Move to School, Paul Madison. And we all know and love Paul. He's a tremendous support to our community. Maylin Parker, who is the chef at Morton's Market and has children at Southside. And I failed to mention that Paul has children at Philippi Shores. And then also our chef and owner of Darwin's on 4th. If you haven't been there, it's a really nice restaurant downtown. So we have really wonderful celebrity chefs who will be helping us with this event. And again, it is on October 30th. Our chefs will be working with children, with students to come up with new recipes and so forth that we will be introducing into the school lunch program. Thank you very much. We always appreciate your support, and we hope to see you during National School Lunch Week. Thank you.
Mrs. Zucker.
I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Gerard. You've done a fantastic job. I remember last year's Chef's School to Chef.
It's the Chef's Move to School Kids and Chefs Gala.
Backwards. I remember last year's that it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, the kids that were doing the cooking got just as much of a kick out of it as the adults that were there participating. And I know my grandson was one of the chefs there, and it's quite interesting because he's a vegan. And everything that he was cooking was non-vegan. It had meat in it, so he couldn't eat any of it. But he really loved doing that, and he loved participating. And I think all of the kids that were there did. It was wonderful. Great opportunity for the children.
Thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I too read that article about the Meatless Mondays,
Yes.
and intend to take advantage of it on Monday. I think I'll go over at Gulf Gate and serve for a while, and then have a meatless lunch with my grandson. and who doesn't like vegetables at all, hardly, except that we'll see what he does. It'll be interesting to watch. And then maybe even go over to Felipe Shores with my daughter. But
That would be wonderful.
look forward to seeing you. And then heading out of town.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And our next special presentation, I'd like to call forward Dr. Tanis Kadop, Coordinator of Volunteer and Partnership Programs, what we call PALS, to discuss our 5-Star School Awards.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Tanis Kanop, and I coordinate the school district volunteer and partnership programs, and we support the volunteer and partnership programs and business community partnerships at the schools. This evening, it's my pleasure to introduce to you teams from 22 schools in our district who have received the Florida Department of Education 5-Star School Award for their exemplary collaboration with the community during the 2013-14 school year. Excuse me. The Sarasota County School District, as you know, has a long history of collaboration with and support from our community. We in the district recognize the value of that support and support for our students, and so does the Florida Department of Education. This recognition is expressed by the Department of Education through their 5-Star School Award. Because the 5-Star School Award is grounded in community collaboration with schools, my office has been given the honor of managing this project in our district. It's also important to note that our volunteer and partnership program is supported by a separate nonprofit organization dedicated specifically to our volunteer program called the PALS Community Advisory Board. And our collaborative work between the district and the Community Advisory Board is funded by the Education Foundation. So there are a lot of us collaborating to support collaboration. So tonight, with me to help honor these schools are the following members of the PALS Community Advisory Board. The board president, Shelley Neerman, Vice President, President-elect Dr. Patricia Williams, Speakers Bureau Chair Ellen Langer, our brand new board member Catherine Coleman, and our immediate past president and chair of our Education Committee, Tracy Brutoy, and they'll be helping us when we move to the center to take all the photos. The 5-Star School designation recognizes those schools that demonstrate extensive community involvement, spotlighting the value and commitment that schools place on bringing the community into the schools and encouraging students to reach out into the community to help community projects. The 5-Star School requirements are very rigorous, and schools must meet 100% of the 31 criteria that are set forth by the Florida Department of Education across the following 5 areas: community and business partnerships, family involvement, volunteerism, student community service, and the work of the school advisory councils. To qualify, a school must submit a written application and an extensive portfolio that includes documentation that they have met each of the 31 criteria across the 5 areas. This effort is all toward improving student achievement. The Florida Department of Education 5-Star School Award began 20 years ago, and tonight we're recognizing 22 of our schools who applied for and were given the award of 5-Star School. Special recognition goes tonight to 2 schools who have earned this award since its inception: Bay Haven School of Basics Plus and Venice Elementary School. So each year when we do this, we have a system to recognize the teams that have come in to get their awards. So I'll first ask Superintendent White and Chairwoman Jane Goodwin to step to the center. And if our team wants to get ready to give the awards. For the school teams, as I call your school team forward, if you would come up, Shelley Neerman, our president, will give you your certificate or your award. Then we'll ask you to move to the center behind the banner and next to the superintendent and the school board chair for a photo that we'll provide to your school. Then after you have the photo taken, if you would go across the room, up across the back of the dais to be congratulated by the other board members. Okay? I know a lot of you have done this every year, so you kind of know the drill, but we do have some new people, which is very exciting, so it'll all work out very well. So let's get, why don't you all go out and put the, all right. Very good. And if our first team wants to get ready to come up, we have a rather large team from this first school, Sarasota Academy of the Arts. If you'd come forward, please. This is the first year that SAA has applied for this award, and first-year recipients are given a plaque with their certificate so that each year they can replace their certificate. So representing SAA, Principal Cecilia Blankenship, five-star school coordinator and SAA board director and secretary Kelly Marsh, board of directors, is everyone here? No. Dan's not here. I'm going to say all the names anyway. Vice President Rob McLean, Treasurer Denise Gagne, Board Member Joe Salerno, Board Member Bill Mariotti, Business Manager Matt McHugh, and Director of Arts and Music Julie McHugh, and our own Mike McHugh. Got it? Very good. Congratulations for your first year award. Mike, you're not joining your team? Okay, next, this is the third year that Sarasota School of Arts and Sciences have received the five-star school award, and we're going to bring forward to accept their award Principal Tara Tamash, Volunteer Coordinator Michael Reed, PTSS President Jennifer Roos Carroll, PTSS Vice President Dana Spencer, Board Member and Vice President, is Marilyn here tonight? No, Marilyn didn't. Okay. Board Member and Secretary Tanya Jones, and Board Member Tracy Bertoy. Did you bring anyone else, Mike, that I didn't mention? And Lisa Ebersol. And while we're waiting for the photo, I want to thank my director, Gary Leatherman, who's Director of Communications, who has stepped in to help me with photos since our photographer did not show up tonight. So, Gary, that's above and beyond. Thank you. We provide these photos to the schools so they can post them on their school websites. Very nice. Congratulations. Atwater Elementary School has been a five-star school for 4 years, so congratulations to that team, Assistant Principal Jody Long and five-star school coordinator Marnie Eckert. Congratulations. A fifth-year award goes to Suncoast Polytechnical High School, and here to accept the award on behalf of that school is Assistant Director Trent Terry. Congratulations. Good. We have two schools who have achieved five-star status for 8 years. The first of those two is Booker Middle School, and with us tonight is Assistant Principal Brian Dorn and Administrative Assistant and five-star school coordinator Deborah Alvis Greenwald. One thing I failed to mention is, Pat, would you give me that next one, please? Each school that has been a five-star school for at least 2 years has a banner like the one you see being held. And each year they get a decal for the year. So you should go into the schools and see the five-star school banners and see the decals on the banners for all the years that they've won five-star schools. Our second school that has achieved five-star status for 8 years is Lamarck Elementary School. And this evening we have Principal Brandon Johnson here and five-star coordinator Crystal Robinson. Tatum Ridge Elementary School has achieved five-star status for 9 years, and here to accept the award for that school is Principal Eric Jackson. Congratulations. Two schools have won the five-star award for 11 years. First is Cranberry Elementary School. I'm not sure that Cranberry was able to make it. Yes? Wonderful. Yay! And accepting for Cranberry Elementary School is Assistant Principal John Carey. Our second school to achieve 11 years of five-star school status is Emma E. Booker Elementary School. And here to accept for that school this evening is Principal Dawn Clayton. Two schools that have achieved five-star status for 15 years. First, Goshio Elementary School, and here to accept is Principal Dr. Pamela Buchanan. And with Dr. Buchanan is Caroline Lee, who is the volunteer coordinator, the business partner coordinator, and the five-star coordinator for that school. Our second school at 15 years is Philippi Shores Elementary School, Principal Dr. Allison Foster, and Administrative Assistant Margie Lacita. Glen Allen Elementary School has received five-star status for 16 years. And with us from Glen Allen is Principal Amy Archer, Assistant Principal Becky Drum, and Title I Resource Teacher and five-star Coordinator Sean Cheeseman. Just Sean. Okay, just Sean. Thanks for being here, Sean. Great. 2 schools have achieved 5-star status for 17 years. First, we recognize Fruitville Elementary School, Principal Dr. Laura Kingsley, and Administrative Assistant Janet Hetzel. We actually have 4 schools that have achieved 5-star status for 18 years. Quite an accomplishment. First, we have Alta Vista Elementary School. Assistant Principal Dia Smith. And ESOL Liaison and 5-star Coordinator Evangeline Fotos. I'll start getting the next teams up. Another 18-year school, 18-year school, Englewood Elementary School, Principal Mark Grossenbacher, and 5-star school coordinator and guidance counselor Penny Scher. Lakeview Elementary School, Principal Joan Bauer and 5th grade teacher Megan Wink. And at the 18-year mark, Toledo Blade Elementary School, Principal Jennifer Dulciato and 5-star school coordinator Christy Wheat. Nineteen-year achievement goes to 2 schools, Ashton Elementary School, and we have Assistant Principal Dr. Jacob Rusco. And Taylor Ranch Elementary School, Principal Dr. William Bolander, and Media Aid Volunteer Coordinator and 5-star Coordinator Marion Lacrosse. Thank you. And I'm so glad I have people here to take care of me because I skipped right over Wilkinson. I apologize. Wilkinson achieved at 17 years, and we have from Wilkinson tonight, anybody here? But I'll recognize Principal Ruth Thomas and 4th grade teacher who's also the 5-star coordinator, Tiffany Lloyd. Last but not least, we have our 2 schools that have achieved 5-star status every year that the award has been given. First, Bay Haven School of Basic Plus. We have Administrative Assistant and 5-star Coordinator Kathy Kennedy and PTO Vice President and Business Partner Coordinator Kathy Byler. And last but certainly not least, our second school to achieve 5-star status for 20 years, Venice Elementary School, award being accepted by Principal Teresa Baus.
Thank you very much. Hey girl, thank you. It's nice to see you.
And please join me in one more round of applause for all of our 5-star schools. We have an extra treat tonight that I'm proud to present. Although all of our volunteers are always very special to us, tonight we're honoring 3 of our volunteers who were recognized this summer as volunteers, outstanding volunteers across the region. As you may know, each year we ask the schools to select their outstanding volunteers, and they are able to select an outstanding youth, an outstanding adult, and an outstanding senior volunteer. The school celebrates them as their outstanding school volunteer at the school level. Then we invite the schools to submit those names to us in my office, and the PALS Community Advisory Board reviews those names, and from those winners, those school-based winners, we choose district winners. We honor all of our winners at our April recognition event, and we send our district winner names on to Tallahassee for the state competition. 3 years ago, another volunteer recognition program came to be in our community through our local ABC 7 television station. They began recognizing volunteers who are outstanding through the Sarasota-Manatee region through their program ABC 7 Who Cares. The station invites organizations that uses volunteers to submit names for consideration, and they select 7 outstanding volunteers throughout the region. The first year of that competition, we had our own Ruthie Moss, who is a volunteer who coordinates the reading tutor program at Emma E. Booker Elementary School. Ruthie has achieved what seemed like the impossible. She has recruited volunteers so that every kindergarten student, every first grade student, and every second grade student has a tutor that works with them at least once a week. Dawn, I got that right? Yeah. Okay, good. So we were very proud of Ruthie being selected as one of the 7. The second year, our outstanding youth winner, who was the Pineview Outstanding Youth Student winner, and the district winner, John Potvin, was also recognized. So we had, of the 7, another school district volunteer. But this year, what brings us here tonight is this year, of the 7 volunteers honored across the community, 3 of the 7 are school district volunteers. So I wanted to bring, yes. So I appreciate the time on the agenda this evening to bring those volunteers before you. I think they have very special stories, and I'd like you to get to know them and honor them this evening for that outstanding accomplishment. So we'll start with our youngest, our outstanding youth volunteer, who was one of the ABC 7 Who Cares, who is a Pineview outstanding youth volunteer, and who was our outstanding district volunteer. Naba, if you'd like to come forward, you'd like to bring your mother with you? Is your sister here too? Okay, come on. Naba is a senior at Pineview, right? Senior this year, who last year was selected as Pineview's Outstanding Youth Volunteer and our District Outstanding Volunteer. Naba volunteers at the school level, the community level, the regional level, the state level, the national level, and the international level. Naba recognizes the unbridled power of youth working collaboratively to change the world, and she is definitely going to change the world. She's a determined, articulate change maker, and she employs her gifts to address dilemmas of health, human security, and rights of women and children on a local and international level. Some of her change maker efforts included raising funds to build a relief shelter in school in Bangladesh, contributing to clean drinking water for the Sudan through waterproject.org, and locally packing food for local families in need through the weekly program through the Warren Backpack Program. She volunteers through clubs at Pineview, such as Student Council, Speech and Debate, Model UN, Builders Club, Key Club, and Peace Jam. She holds a very high GPA while she does all of this. Through Peach Jam, a service learning model that unites change agent youth with Nobel laureates to cultivate global peace, Naba collaborated with 500 other peace action advocates and realized the power of motivating youth to create meaningful change. And I think that's the thing that jumped out at me the most with Naba. Many of her efforts were focused on teaching younger students the power and the need for volunteering and giving back to the community, which I think is incredibly outstanding. Her generative work with the 7th graders also contributed to their participating in 1 Billion Rising, a choreographed flash dance to break the chain which swept the world on Valentine's Day, designed to serve as a global strike demonstrating solidarity and a refusal to accept violence against women and girls. In June of 2013, NABA took personal action on an international level by working with an SOS Village orphanage branch in Pakistan. Through this international organization that provides safe homes and education to local orphans, NABA taught English and other subjects to elementary school children. These shining examples represent only a fraction of this young woman's passion, and there is no doubt that she will continue to advocate for public health and the rights of women and children at both the local and international level. So congratulations, NABA.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to come and speak. It's really an honor, and I'm really humbled to be here representing some of the volunteers we have in this amazing county. So I came to Sarasota in 8th grade, and I can definitely say that, all my gallivanting around the U.S., this is definitely a standout county when it comes to volunteering. Here we realize that the leaders of tomorrow, they have to take the action today. But as students, we can't really limit ourselves with textbook rote definitions of learning. Our teachers take very active steps in realizing that, and they make sure that things that we learn in the classroom actually can relate and make a difference in the lives that we are going to live in the future. So for this reason, I think that Sarasota County and its school district is definitely an exemplary one when it comes to volunteering. You can see whenever you go to any school, there are Key Club sign-up sheets, student government organizations, or Rotary partnerships peppered on any of the bulletin boards, not just my native Pineview, but all the different schools in the county. Organizations like PSHAM, Saved Our Fur, Key Club, they empower youth, showing them the tools they need to make the change they want to implement in their communities. Students are encouraged to look for differences in their community, look for problems that spark emotion in them, and to act on them. Create awareness programs, fundraise, research solutions, anything they can do to make the difference and make the world that they want to live in. Here, I realized that my voice, nor the voice of any other student, should never be shut down as immature or unknowledgeable, because we really are the voice of the future, and we need to take the action today and make sure that our voices are heard loud and clear. The world of the future is not going to be my parents' world. It's going to be the world of the students that are in the classrooms right now. But the first step is discussion. Unfortunately, discussion can only go so far, and so active steps actually have to be taken to make the difference in our communities. Organizations like Salvation Army, Red Cross, Children's First have all helped students in Sarasota County really take steps to ensure that Sarasota becomes more of the beautiful jewel that we all know it is, just polishing it a bit. In schools around the county, there's the big issue of bullying, and I've seen it in Pineview, and I'm sure other schools have that epidemic plaguing them as well. Even though it's a big issue, I've seen here that people are willing to take the steps necessary to make sure that no one is bullied ever again. They're willing to reach out the hand to the student who feels that they're alienated, reach out to make sure that people feel loved, people feel supported, and I think that is something that really exemplifies the volunteer spirit that Sarasota County does exemplify. But not only that, students also have the opportunity to reach outside our borders. With borders of countries becoming more and more transparent, we can actually go to other countries and see what life is like there and really try to impact them. At Pineview, we have an organization, she spoke about this briefly, known as the 7th Grade Civics Fair Project. Basically, students were able to look around the world for any type of disaster, any type of problem that really sparked emotion in them, and they could take whatever steps they wanted to fix that situation. That empowerment gave students the drive they needed to realize they actually had a power to make a difference, and it wasn't up to them to take a back seat. They wanted to make the world perfect. It was up to them themselves. Sarasota County in itself is a haven for those who want to make a difference. And here, young have a chance to speak their minds and make an impact on the world. Because here, volunteerism takes a back seat to nothing as everyone strives for a better tomorrow. Thanks.
Our next volunteer, who was our out...
Before we go to the next one, Mrs. Brown would like to make a comment, please.
I am just so impressed by what this young lady has shared with us. And I think it shows that we always say when you volunteer, you get more than you give, you get back. I think you're so exemplary of that. And the other thing is and when people sit around and focus on themselves or what's wrong with themselves or what's wrong with the small world around them, I mean, you don't grow. But when you look further out, like you have done, and look at ways, I mean, you shape your life. You don't let things shape you. And I think that is a lesson we can all learn from. And hopefully, more students will follow your example, and also more adults, too. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your goals.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I just had to say that was inspiring. I mean, you have the energy is there, and obviously your vision and your heart is in the right place. But it's wonderful to see the impact that it's had on you, but knowingly the impact it's had on so many other people. But you serve as a wonderful example. So thank you.
Mrs. Zucker.
I loved your statement that you are the voice of the future, because it's so true. And I'm also glad to know that you feel like the school system is preparing you for the future, and that you feel empowered to be able to take your own initiative and take what you're learning in school and go out and discover more in the world. I thank you so much for coming to us and talking to us, because it's real important that the board, I think, knows the type of students that we're educating in the schools, because we don't always get that opportunity. And it was really great of you to share your story with us. Thank you.
And I want to reiterate that. Thank you for your eloquence, for your grace, for being here tonight. And we're going to look forward to hearing what's ahead for you. I mean, you'll be at the next step in college before long, and we certainly want to keep in touch with you. And very best wishes for a great senior year. Thank you.
Our next volunteer is Kelly Keller. Kelly, would you come on up, please? Kelly was selected as the Laurel Nokomis Outstanding Adult Volunteer of the Year and our district's Outstanding Adult Volunteer of the Year. Come stand next to me. Kelly's very shy and quiet, but powerful in all she does with her volunteerism. Initially inspired by the school weekend food backpack program, understanding that children needed food for the weekends, Kelly organized a group of parents to explore how the school could extend the Goodwill venture. With support of the PTO Board of Directors and the school principal, Kelly began the process of creating an additional support for students at Laurel Nokomis School, the Laurel Nokomis School Clothes Closet. The motto that she crafted for the clothes closet, make sure I get this right, if we have it and you need it, we'll share it. If you have it and no longer need it, please donate it. News of the clothes closet and the motto was sent out to the Laurel Nokomis school community, and the immediate response was overwhelming. Donations poured in from families and businesses and included clothing, shoes, toiletries, blankets, hangers, clothing racks, school supplies, and bags. Kelly coordinated a volunteer task force to sort, launder, and organize all of these donated items. Kelly also found some financial contributors and used the funds to purchase other much-needed items for the closet. Once the closet was stocked and operational, Kelly distributed information to families in need, local community centers, and other area schools. By the end of the year, the Laurel Nokomis School Clothes Closet had officially become a community-based program serving anyone in the Venice and South Sarasota area who had a need. Kelly's vision continued to grow with the success of this program, and she worked with SunTrust Bank and local businesses to run a shoe drive for the closet. Recently, the program started providing baby clothes for county teen pregnancy programs, all Sarasota schools that had a need. She also provided support to migrant workers and to nursing homes. And I think that's what made the difference about this project. This made it jump out to us. A number of schools have clothing closets, and they're all so wonderfully run. But Kelly's Closet has now reached out throughout the community. So if they get donations of clothing or items that aren't appropriate for children, they'll donate them to the nursing homes. Or if they find items for babies, they'll donate them to needy families. So she's gone much beyond, above and beyond the four walls of the school into the community. Kelly's extreme dedication to what started as a school project has become a district-wide resource for those in need and is far-reaching throughout our region. So congratulations to Kelly. I'd like you to say a few words, please.
Thank you all for having me here today. Boy, Tana's had a lot to say, and what started with the clothes closet was I was aware we had free breakfast and reduced meal plans, and a few of us were sitting around, and I found out about the All Faiths Food Bank, and I realized, because I had just purchased some shoes for my own son, that if they couldn't afford food to take home, they had to take home food for the weekend, they couldn't afford to eat, then how were they buying clothes? So I had a trunk full of clothes in my car, getting ready to go to Goodwill and donate, and some other parents got some things together. And Nancy Dubin, our principal, was kind enough to loan us an old locker room. It was full of dust and bugs, and we got in there and we cleaned it out. And people started donating racks and different things, and we set it up, and it really looks like a little boutique, which is really nice because it's important that the kids come in and don't feel, like they're going and getting needy clothes. They feel like they're coming in and actually shopping. Things are hung up and organized, and it's not on my own. There's a lot of other parents that have come in and a lot of other volunteers. And so I certainly have not done this program on my own. What's really nice, too, that I noticed that we wanted to help the kids in the school. And just the other day, a grandmother came in, and she was given her grandchildren to take care of, but not legally. So being on a fixed income, she has no funds coming in to help with that. And she was on a fixed income and in tears and wondering how she's going to clothe these children. So she came in and brought the kids, and they went shopping. And you would have thought, it was Christmas. One of the little kids said that they thought it was better than Wally World. Actually, she said Walmart, but my son thought Wally World would be better to say, because that's what they say these days, he told me. So, just extending out beyond just our children and their families. And then they also, we open it up to even their neighbors. If you know a neighbor that's in need, let us know. We had a person come in that had an elderly relative in a nursing home, and they didn't have much, and they didn't have much to give them. So I said, I'll put some clothes together as they come in, and we got some bags together, and that's how that started, giving it to the nursing home as well, because there's a lot of clothes that come in that are appropriate for our kids. So we try to give out to everyone that needs, whether you're in our school or you're not. If we have it, we'll give it to you. We get a lot of donations, which is a wonderful thing. The financial part also helps us because we buy brand new underclothes for the kids. Because Laurel Nokomis School is a kindergarten through 8th grade, we have some big kids. So I've gone out several times and found size 14, 15, 16 size shoes because they wear them. Not a lot of people donate those, so we'll go out and scour around and find them. Buy them new if we have to, but we also go to the other Goodwills and things like that and look for what we need. So it's been a real honor to be a part of it and to be nominated for the many awards. It certainly wasn't what I was expecting. I just thought I'd go in my little closet and do some time and help out. And when the kids come in while I'm in there, it's amazing, the feeling I get. I can't put it into words how I feel when they come in and pick out clothes. And I know that makes them feel better. They look good, they feel better, they're not getting picked on, and they don't have to worry about that aspect. They can just concentrate on school. They feel really good about themselves, and that's a big part of it for me. The kids at our school, they know we have their backs, and they come in and they leave with a smile on their face, and they can come back anytime that they need anything, and we're there to provide it for them. So I'm grateful to have that opportunity, and thank you guys for having me here.
Mrs. Zucker?
Let her take our pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to thank you before you leave. I'd like to thank you very much. You are so enthusiastic and full of energy, and I can see how this program has just grown because that's natural for you. that you'll start something little and the next thing you know, it's the whole community involved. Food and shelter and clothes are so important to our youth. If they cannot learn unless they're fed, and they can't worry about not having a roof over their head. So those are primary things. And what you've done to reach out to our seniors as well in the nursing homes is just amazing to me. You're a true, you epitomize what the community partnership is all about. So I thank you very much. I congratulate you on your award, but I thank you very much for reaching out to the community and sharing with the community and letting the community know and share with you and your school. Because that's part of it. It's not all just us. It has to be a community effort, everything that we do. So thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
Well, you've helped solve one of my problems. I love to shop, and I love to find a bargain. But I've got kids grandkids that are 10 and 12, and they see that sale ticket, they don't want it, or if they don't like it, and I've had to pass on to Goodwill more than once things with the tag still on it. And now I won't feel bad at all shopping, and if they don't like it, I'll just put in a bag with your name on it. And
things with tags on it. Kids do like that.
Yeah.
There's some kids that's important to them, and that's okay.
So I'll still be able to go out and shop with purpose now.
Right? For the real things.
I think it's just wonderful, Kelly, and you have another person who does a lot of cleaning out and have two grandchildren, 10 and 12, so I'll be making sure that I stop by to visit you as well in the near future. But thank you so much for the outreach, for the energy, for the warmth and caring that you exhibit, and this is such a great idea. It just brings the family of the school community together, and thank you so much for all your efforts. It's really great.
Our third volunteer who was recognized both as the outstanding volunteer for SCTI, but at the ABC7 Who Care is Mark Morin. And Mark, do you want to make your way up here with your entourage? Mark is here with his wife, Alexis, who herself is a phenomenal volunteer and a member of the Education Foundation Board. Dr. Todd Bowden, SCTI Executive Director. Two of the students that Todd's worked with, he's invited, and that when you hear about Todd, you'll know why. Yolanda Charles and Gwen Clark, and SCTI staff member Aline Sheffield. Did I get everybody? Come on up, everybody. Come on, gather around. Mark volunteers by helping students in the adult education program at Sarasota County Technical Institute in Newtown. He works with those students to help them earn their GED. His time, energy, and contributions have truly contributed to the success of the students at the school. When you hear Mark speak, it won't surprise you that he excites the students about learning and wanting to pursue careers for the first time in their lives. He does this by volunteering 4 to 5 times a week and putting in thousands of volunteer hours over the past 4 years. His passion and dedication spreads throughout the school on a daily basis. Mark believes that students can make significant progress if they are tutored one-on-one 3 to 4 times a week. So he tells the students if they can dedicate that time to work with him, he will ensure, you promise this, right? He ensures that they pass the GED. As a relationship of trust and good communication develops, significant learning is enabled. He excites them in wanting to become educated, productive citizens that are able to provide for their families. It's often a vision that is hard for them to see outside of the school doors. His dedication and commitment never seems to stop. On weekend, now he's a volunteer, he's not a paid staff. On weekends, he makes up lesson plans for each individual student and keeps detailed progress notes of the skills that they need to master. After students earn their GED, he continues to work with them to further their education. For example, he's taken one student from the beginning of earning her GED to now being an LPN. Is that one of our students here tonight? You'll hear more about her. Mark worked with her every day until she passed her GED. He retaught himself, listen to this, he retaught himself biology and chemistry so he could help her study in those subjects to pass the tests required to be accepted into the LPN program at SCTI. As a result, she graduated with honors. Yes. Wonderful. He didn't stop there. He continues to mentor and guide her. He helped her with her financial aid paperwork, organizational skills, and has laid out her course plan that she needs to complete in order to earn her bachelor's degree in nursing. This is just one of the many examples of Mark making impossible dreams come true for students. But what the school reports to us is that what's most important to Mark is his relationship with his students and how they feel about him. When the students were asked to give one word to describe Mark, the words were phenomenal, sensational, remarkable, outstanding, awesome, and a genius. Mark truly is an amazing man and goes well above and beyond just tutoring students in math. He's an inspirational force of volunteer dedication and commitment to student success. Mark, congratulations.
Well, good evening, everyone. Let me introduce you to Team SCTI Newtown here, and then put a little perspective on what was extremely exaggerated in the remarks. So, this is Gwen Clark, and she is a student. She's graduated and gotten her GED, and she is now in search of employment, and she's working with several organizations to achieve that. This is my most important person. This is my wife, Alice. And she just supports me every day, and she's delighted that I spend so much time someplace else. This is Yolanda Charles. She is a GE student as well, and very close to achieving her GED. What I'd mention about Yolanda and Miss Gwen are these are really stalwarts of the community in Newtown. Everybody knows them. Everybody does. And when they are successful and when they like school, people in Newtown want to do what they are doing. So we have a great word-of-mouth thing going on in Newtown, and these are two of the real opinions for that taking place. Behind Yolanda is our very good coordinator who works in what we call choices. So Miss Sheffield takes all of our students and has them go through a process in terms of what they might be interested in and what they might be good in, and then channels them into those areas for study. We then have Ken Waters, who is the Director of Housing. I'll explain that in just a minute, but Ken is a terrific supporter of ours. Yes, and then we have Todd Bowden, who is the principal of the school. And like with any terrific program, if you don't have terrific support, it doesn't work very well. And so this is the team right now that I have here. But I want to explain that in my recognition, I'm one of 26 volunteers. So if you ever wanted to hear something about a tail wagging the dog, you just heard it. Because we've got many, many volunteers and many, many great students and great partners that we have. And there's one who isn't here tonight that I wanted to mention to you because, as you might guess, behind every great program there is a great teacher. And we have a great teacher in our program. She is in a class right now, so she couldn't be here tonight in Tampa. But she had this funny idea. Her name is Susan Imperato. And she had this idea that with our student base, and this isn't true for all student bases, but within our segment, all of our students have pretty much failed in the academic system. They are all coming to us in adult education. We have students as young as 16 and 17 where it just isn't working out in school to students younger than I am. Yes? Yeah, okay. But it's a broad range. And oftentimes the motivation of these students is they would like to be able to help their kids. They would like to get a GED, but what they really want to do is they want to look capable in front of their kids and in front of their grandkids. And so we take them through this structure in order to do it. So this teacher, Susan Imperato, she had this idea, and her idea was adult education as it goes today is pretty much computer-enabled education. The thought is you're an adult, here's a computer, here are self-taught programs, and you can work with that computer and get yourself to a certain level. That does not work well with our segment. Our segment does not recognize that capability very well. Most of our students have problems with computers and computer literacy. We have programs to help with that, but it's not a natural thing. Most of our students don't really have the attention span or interest to really follow a computer-assisted program. And so what Susan came up with was this idea to incorporate volunteers. So here we are at SCTI Newtown. We have at our peak 38 students, and it increases each year. That student range is very broad. It comes into us on an average of about 6th grade reading and 5th grade math. And what we need to do is bring that up to 12th grade and then pass the GED. And the new GED is an additional challenge to what we've had in the past. So we work on that basis. And Susan's thought was, we need to have tutors. We need to have volunteers. We can't afford to have all the people to give one-on-one attention to people, but we need volunteers who can really make a difference. And she went out and recruited me, and she recruited several others, and Todd got involved. And so we ended up last year with 26 volunteers for 38 students, which means every student can have his own or her own tutor to bring these topics to life to them. And the other thing is, when you're working with a student 2 or 3 times a week, there's no place to hide. Not for either one of you. So you've got to be good, and they've got to be good. And it really has elevated the level of learning within the school. So I wanted to kind of pass that along. And there's a very special thing happening at SETI Newtown. It's fun to be there. It's fun for the students. It's really fun for the volunteers. It's fun for our partners like Ken in housing. You can imagine, our building is not why people come to our school. We have a 6-room, non-windowed building on Martin Luther King and Osprey. That's where we are. Its attribute is it is secure. So it's terrific in terms of the safety that it provides. The inside of it, you come in, and Susan has decorated it with everything known to man. She has this idea of celebrate everything, doesn't she?
Yes.
Every single thing. So we're kind of like family. We have Thanksgiving meals and Christmas meals and birthdays and all kind. And this is a great advantage of an adult education program to be able to do that. And it operates like family, does it not?
Yes, it does.
It really does. And so students look forward to coming to this at this stage in their lives in order to gain from education, because they know that nobody can take from them what education gives them. They all know that. And they are all on the path to elevating themselves, better self-esteem, better life for their families, and achieving. So I just wanted to leave that with you. This isn't so much of what I do. This is really what the program is. And if we didn't have a great teacher like Susan, and if we didn't have great support like Todd, who's really been encouraging us for 3 years now, we wouldn't have the success that we're having. So I wanted to let all of you know that. Remember, I am 1/26 of what is happening, of part of a very big team. So we have one thing I'll leave you with, which is our motto at the school, which is, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Okay. From Teddy Roosevelt. Thank you very much, everybody.
We'll let them take a picture first, Frank. We have a few remarks. Mr. Kovac.
I just want to really thank all 3 of the honorees tonight. I mean, I've just felt completely blessed just to be able to sit up here and hear these 3 stories about these people. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And Mark, I can't thank you enough for what you do. What an incredible story. I mean, you know, most people would think hearing you speak, if they walked in the middle of it, they'd assume you were a staff member, because how could you do that much? And, you know, I keep hearing about your students this and your students that. Just what an incredible story. Thank you very much, and thank you, all 3 of you. I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Well, I'll almost duplicate what he said. I think it's, you know, there's no doubt education is the great equalizer, and you're giving them new hope and bright futures. And I think that your program is just wonderful, and the passion behind it is so incredibly important. So I thank you. And then, again, I do thank all the volunteers, because it's so wonderful to live in Sarasota County where we have this commitment to our community. So thank you again.
Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I want to thank you, too. And I'm thinking SCTI Newtown. Why didn't we think of that sooner? I know we set it up to get the employees trained to working on the new building at Booker High, and then what was going to happen? But Todd wouldn't take that. He wanted to continue it and see all the lives it was touching. And I'm glad to see that it is prospering, and because I know that every family, every person that you help is going to be helping their kids, because I know that that's a terrible burden for these kids to go home and they've got a parent who doesn't know the homework, can't help them with the homework. And it must be terrible for those parents to have to live through that, and for you giving them that opportunity to help their children and to show their children that there's a better way. I think it's wonderful, and thank you for your work, and thank Todd for continuing that program over there.
Mrs. Zucker.
Very short. I just wanted to say thank you. There's not enough that we can do to ensure that our community continues to grow. It takes people like you, yourself, and our other volunteers in order for us to be able to expand our capacity to teach beyond the walls of the school and beyond what is traditionally seen as a school, as a traditional school. It takes reaching out into the community and doing things that are different, unheard of. And I thank you very much for stepping outside of that box and making it a success. Thank you.
Mark, you and I go back a little ways in the history, our history here in here in town, and perhaps almost in other areas. You had an excellent career at IBM. You came here and were looking for something to do, and you've done so many different things. But I think you have hit the nail on the head, because I think this is really where your strong suit is. And I knew that we had 3 volunteers, and I was eager to see them, but I must say that I was really eager to see Mark here, because I really felt in my heart that I know your passion, your wife's passion, Alex, and what a great couple you are, and how many wonderful things you're doing in Newtown. And I know example after example of when you've reached out and helped these families, helped these students. And, it is just a wonderful thing. And the examples that you have there, I worked in that old building before it was affiliated with the school. I painted the building a few iterations ago when it belonged to the Y. We ran our Reads program and our Operation Graduation program out of that building, and it is pretty bad. But Todd, who is, an inspiration to me in many things, Todd has always said, and this is true, a lot of those students, if we brought them onto our main exciting Proctor at Beneva campus, they wouldn't come. They would not come outside of the community because it was not convenient, it was not accessible. And now with the growth of what they're doing there, they're more likely to come on our regular campus and to get further instruction, as you have mentioned before. And I just think it's remarkable. It's one person at a time, one day at a time. And these are truly probably the best days of your life. I'm not saying that for sure, but I know you have the house in Maine and all that stuff to contend with. But I just can't imagine, any luckier community than Sarasota to have yourself and the others that work on your team working in Newtown. And I do know that Roxy Jurdy's husband has done an awful lot of work with you, our community Foundation President and CEO, and I'm going to come up and visit. I've been talking about that for some time, but I'm going to come up and visit. But I want to say from the bottom of my heart to all of you volunteers, to all 3 of you who have spoken tonight, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's not enough, but we so appreciate all your efforts as well as our community. So thank you again.
Thank you.
So in closing, the secret's out. Now you know that I have the best job in the district, because I get to work with these individuals and with schools such as the ones you honored tonight through 5-star schools every day of my work. So thank you for the extended time this evening so we could share these stories with you and honor those schools.
Thank you. And that ends our special presentation, and now we move on to the superintendent's report. Mrs. White.
Well, in knowing that we would have these outstanding presentations today, I've elected to not have a superintendent's report.
Next, we move into the hearing of citizens. I have 4 cards. I'd like to first call Terry Comerford from Northport up to the podium. Terry. The red light should be on in front of your microphone there. Is it on?
It is.
Good. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The light will be green until the last minute, and then it will be golden for the last minute of speaking. So,
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much for having us. Tonight, we're here to represent students, teachers, parents, grandparents, and community members concerned for our children's education. We have a few subjects to touch on. First, we find it very important for Sarasota County School Board to inform the parents of the NR2 score. Florida statute maintains that the schools must administer the test, but it states nowhere that the student can be forced to put pen to paper or hand to mouse, as it may be. We want parents to know that we do have the right to refuse high-stakes testing. We have provided you with an email. I think that it's been given between Jenny Black from the Florida Department of Education at Orange County. It describes in detail how to attain the NR2 score. This information can be found under the files of the Opt Out Orlando Facebook page. This is attemptedness, this NR2 is this attemptedness criteria not met. It does not count against the student, the teacher, or the school. It has its own score. Developmental psychologist Jean Piaget said, "The principal goal of education in the schools should be creating men and women who are capable of doing new things, not simply repeating what other generations have done. Men and women who are creative, inventive, and discoverers, who can be critical and verify, and not accept everything that they are offered." This is what we're doing tonight. We are critical of the high-stakes testing. It can be verified that they are not valid in determining a student's academic growth, and we do not accept what is now being offered to our children in the name of education. We aren't opposed to new or different. We aren't opposed to formative testing without We aren't opposed to formative testing without punitive consequences. We are challenging what our kindergarten through 5th grade kids are being taught and tested on is developmentally inappropriate. Since we started with Piaget, we will continue. He was a proponent of critical thinking, but he also understood the developmental capabilities of humans. Piaget's formal operational stage begins at approximately 12 years old. Is that it? Until adulthood.
Thank you. That's enough. Okay. Tracy Rowe from Northport.
It's Raleigh. Rhymes with Molly.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Raleigh.
Not an uncommon problem. All right. Piaget's formal operational stage begins at approximately 12 years old, continuing through adulthood. This is a time when abstract thought, deductive reasoning, logical thought, and systematic planning begins. Yet we're throwing these skills at students K to 5, who in general will not have the capacity to think critically, much less apply these skills. Then we test these kids, use it punitively for remediation or retention, use it as 50% of our teachers' evaluation and grades our schools, which brings me to our next rejection. We reject high-stakes testing for our teachers who cannot control the weather, bandwidth, system stability, student socioeconomic status, ethnicity, parental involvement, and learning difficulties, just to name a few. from the Florida Department of Education website. The best understanding of a student's achievement comes from looking at multiple pieces of evidence, and in parentheses it says including test scores, over time. Lost paper. These high-stakes tests were not meant to be the only tool used for promotion or retention, but counties all over the state are using the tests for just that, no matter how the child did all year long. One test over a couple days determines the child's entire worth for a year. For the year. Looking at the whole student means looking at the whole student's year, not one test, and who better to assess the whole child than the person who stands before him or her 180 days a year. We reject 30% of our students' final grades being based on an EOC exam. The county has the right and responsibility to choose a percentage that is not punitive. This could be 0%. It is a plausible percentage for the EOCs under Florida statute. I'll also address, nope. These tests are at least 4 weeks before school's out, so what are our students doing for the last 4 weeks? When they know that they've already failed this test, you're setting them up for failure. With built-in failure rates, we lose money, and more importantly, we're going to lose children. Young man from church, he has a 3.6 GPA. He got a 6 on the 10th grade reading assessment. He's thinking about dropping out because he has to take those tests, because he can get an A all year long and bomb that test, and he's ruined his GPA over one test. My college students don't even have 30% of their final grade at 30%. I'm also going to address, before the potential comes out, that these students aren't going to graduate. They're not going to let an entire state of seniors not graduate because of testing. It's just never going to happen. Colleges aren't interested in state tests, and right now there are approaching 400 colleges and universities who are no longer using the ACT or the SAT for college admissions. They want to see the whole student. I want to also stop any misconception of the possibility that you have to have a high school diploma or a GED to go to college. Not quite so. 4 years of hard work and transcripts do not spontaneously combust. And I guess
thank you, Ms. Riley.
Every month until then.
Mr. Sal Serban?
Hi, Sal Serban. I'm the Executive Director of the American Indian Movement of Florida. I would like it on the record that last month the American Indian Movement of Florida reached out to the school board, Venice students, administrators, parents, and the entire Sarasota community. I personally invited my opposition, Jolene, Malone, or Morris, whichever name she's using today, and I personally invited my other opponent, school board member Bridget Ziegler. I would like to say to Ms. Ziegler, it's shame on you. I know you were appointed to the school board, but I am ashamed how quickly you have turned your back on the minority students you represent. Where is their voice? Where is their representation? Since you have openly sided with the people that want to keep the offensive mascot, it is disturbing that they have developed a lynch mob mentality, and you praise them for this, Ms. Ziegler. Next, I would like to say this issue is not only a Venice issue. The school students travel to different schools in Sarasota and Florida, bringing their offensive mascot and lack of respect for the American Indians. I would like to ask the other schools not allow the Venice schools to bring their offensive racist imagery and traditions to your school. Make them cover up their offensive imagery or make them wear their uniforms inside out. Finally, I would like to again point out that the school board is breaking its own rule and the state and federal laws by allowing these offensive mascots to continue to be used. Sarasota School Board Rule Number 2.71, Florida Statute 1000.05 for discrimination, Florida Statute 784.048 for harassment, Florida Statute 877.19 charging the school board with a hate crime, and finally, Florida Statute 1001.03 to the state school board itself for not enforcing Florida law and state board rules set by the school districts. I would like to remind the local police, state attorney general, they took an oath to uphold the laws of Florida. I'm here reporting a crime. I would like to see the state attorney general instruct the state attorneys to issue charges against all the school boards throughout Florida that have offensive Native American mascots. Thank you.
Juan Esperanza.
Good evening, Honorable School Board members and Superintendent White. My name is Juan Espera. I stand before you as a proud product of the Sarasota public school system. I have only been inside this chamber only a couple of times, once to be recognized as an outstanding teacher, another time to defend the world history textbook about a couple of years ago. I am a 14-year veteran social studies teacher here in Sarasota County and also an adjunct professor at the State College of Florida. I come to you this evening on behalf of my social studies colleagues with all due respect to express our concerns with the district's decision to implement the district-wide LEOC, the local end-of-course exam, midterm and final exam, for world history, American government, and economics. We recognize the state DOE's policies and initiatives have placed an undue burden upon you, but we feel it is unfair of the district to implement a high-stakes test 5 days, August 13th, before the first day of school, with no set guidelines in place. This forces teachers to guess what is going to be on the midterm or even the final exam while making the LEOC worth a percentage of a student's overall grade. Not only will this be a disservice to students, but this also impedes a teacher's pride evaluation form. The district did not adequately prepare social studies teachers with a formal guideline or timetable of what is to be taught by any particular date. Week 6 of the school year is not the time to designate the areas of content on the midterm for world history that covers content from the Byzantine Empire through the Enlightenment period. The end of the previous school year would be a much better suited time period for alerting returning faculty for any new changes in our curriculum. The pressure is now on teachers to guess where the cutoff for content will be. How can a teacher effectively teach when they do not have any idea the guidelines the district expects? An argument can be made that we are to follow the state standards, which is an agreeable expectation. However, what should the pace of the class be? Personally, I use the state-guided instructional focus calendar from a couple of years ago to help guide me along, as well as my PLC partner who also teaches world history. There is also the fact that there is not enough time to adequately teach the standards effectively using differentiated instruction and including a variety of primary source documents to promote literacy and writing skills in such a short amount of time. We implore this school board to reconsider the, thank you. And may I just say one other thing? Superintendent White, thank you for coming to our school this afternoon. It really meant a lot to us. Thank you.
And that ends our hearing of citizens. Additions and corrections to the agenda? There are none. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. We don't talk there.
Wait a minute. I can't. Hang on, I'm frozen.
You're frozen?
Oh, yeah, because it took an hour.
Probably took too much time, frozen.
I want him to go. I wanted to talk to him. Tell him to wait. Tell him to wait.
I got to vote. Did you get to vote?
You know, I think because I voted once, but it didn't count. I think what happened is that it timed out.
Do we have a time
The
feature on this?
It's done it before when we've had a long time. We had to go out.
Just give us a moment for some
or vote.
Operational issues.
The last time it did this, we took too long because there's only so much time, and if you sit there and do nothing, it freezes up. It's done it before.
It'll be just a moment.
I'm going to sign in again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we need to do.
Okay, dear, if you want to sign in.
Oh, I'm okay? Oh, shoot, I signed out. Okay.
Do we need to do this verbally?
No, hang on a minute.
Just a moment.
What did I do? I think it's too long. I think I... Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, where are we?
Well, no, actually, because I had asked for item number 12 to be removed from the consent agenda.
No, we asked for it to be moved for comment, which is done after we make a motion for the consent agenda. So I'll be calling on you next for that.
Well, I had asked for it to be removed, so I didn't vote on it, so we could discuss it. So I asked for it to be pulled, and then discuss, and then we could vote on it again. I just
tell them what the process is.
The process that we don't move anything to new business a week before we have our school board meeting.
Is that the case?
I mean, I think there are two different times things get discussed on the consent agenda. One is when things get moved to new business, so they're no longer on the consent agenda.
Correct.
Which I think is what happened at least on one item here, and I believe
Right.
the school board has its own internal process for that.
Yes.
And I believe you've established for yourself a time frame of a week before to do that.
Correct.
That was to add. I thought to add additional business.
No.
It's also to add.
It's
That's
to make
true,
changes.
but I believe it's also the school board's rule to pull something from the consent agenda to the new business. The other type of comments that are done on the consent agenda are frequently for positive comment, but they don't have to be positive, but things that stay on the consent agenda and then afterwards people highlight an issue that's on the consent agenda. But the rule, I think, is just a school board rule that the board has done in and of itself. It's not a law. It's just the way the school board has operated to move something off the consent agenda because it's the superintendent's agenda. She puts it together. And then if a board member wants to pick something off the consent agenda for separate consideration, then they get moved to new business. And the kind of internal operating procedure that the school board has used has been, I think, to do that a week in advance. The same as to put a new issue on the agenda in the first place.
Because we publish this and because we finalize this or wrap this up the week before the school board meeting. When you called me this afternoon, I thought you wanted to make a comment, which is allowed. So I moved that to after the consent agenda so that we could have your discussion at that time.
I had asked for it to be removed in order. I thought I made that clear. I'd asked it to be removed so that a discussion could be made and that it would be not included in the consent agenda.
I didn't understand that.
So
We wouldn't have done that anyway.
I wouldn't have done that anyway.
But that's school board law. That's not state statute. So if certainly if something happens from Thursday to today, that would change. Is that no?
Well,
it was last Tuesday. It was Tuesday to Tuesday that we have that rule that we don't make any changes after Tuesday, and I've been always clear about that as chairman. But to make a comment, which is what I thought you were interested in doing, we did make that change this afternoon.
Well, that is a school board internal operating procedure. The other mechanism, I suppose, would be if there are additions or corrections to the consent agenda, a member could make a motion to move something off the consent agenda.
And I apologize. I thought that's why I asked to do it ahead of time so that it wasn't done here and that you were to pull it prior to our vote tonight. and either make it a separate discussion or, but not to have it included into the consent agenda. That's all.
And that's, at this point, I suppose a motion has been made to approve the consent agenda. The maker of the motion and the seconder, I don't even remember who that was, could withdraw that if it's the.
It was merely to have a conversation about the item. It's not.
Let's do it.
I appreciate that. And again, it's solely.
But from now on, you will know that the rule is that we will not make changes the week before the school board meeting, so that everyone in our audience knows and sees what agenda we're using.
Oh, I agree with the value of that, but the point is things had come up since then. So obviously, if you're talking to members of the community and something came up, that's the only reason that something's changed, and I wanted to discuss it and pull it from the consent agenda.
So at this point, what I'm hearing is if the maker of the motion and the seconder want to withdraw that, we can move aside from the consent agenda. Then if the chair wants to move item 12, item 12 off the consent agenda to new business, we can certainly do that, then go forward with the remainder of the consent agenda, and then consider 2 items of new business.
I am willing to withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
I am too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so shall we go forward now with a new motion on the consent agenda exclusive of number 12, which will be moved to new business?
I move we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 12, which will be moved to new business.
Second.
And that motion carries 5-0. It passes.
You voted on the consent agenda
Exclusive of
of
12.
number 12.
And now we move to new business. Item number 12. May I have a motion?
I would move that the board approve the consent agenda consisting of items.
No.
No, I'm sorry. That the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards 2015 legislative platform be approved by the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida.
I second.
And before we vote, I appreciate.
And now we will open for discussion. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The only reason I asked to pull it, and I do appreciate the accommodation, was solely because I know today we're also on our new business item is discussing the fact that we're going to be potentially hiring a lobbyist. The purpose of when you review it, I think there's wonderful things on the legislative platform, and I understand it's a consortium. However, I wanted to see or discuss the fact that now that we would be spending potentially, if we approve it, $230,000 on the lobbyist, that we would have a legislative platform. A legislative platform specific to Sarasota County. So it was merely to highlight that conversation and discuss it potentially having one specific for our county.
Mrs. Brown.
I believe that when we go towards the next item, that figure that you showed is not what I saw as the amount that we're going to be approving.
3 years?
Or for 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at 1 year.
No.
But this is. We're a member of the Florida School Boards Association, and we're also a member of the Consortium of School Boards Association. The Florida School Boards Association is all members of the school boards. The consortium is primarily made up of those coastal communities, where one of the things we have in common is that when you look into the FEFP formula, and perhaps you aren't as familiar with that, but one of the things that we find is key to that is, as a property-rich county, when the legislature puts more emphasis on what we have to raise, the required local effort, versus what they pay in categoricals or what they put the states in, it puts us in a position where we're paying more and more for our schools. Key West has, not Key West, but the whole Monroe County has been in a position for this for many years. Sarasota has been over 10 years, I believe, where we would contribute more than 90% of our property value tax to pay for the amount that it takes to run our schools. And so we've been getting rollbacks on that. We've pulled together with some of these counties that have those same issues. So we support the Florida School Boards Association, which is in general. We also support the consortium because as a group together, we have a stronger voice. We also have a local agenda that we take before our legislators every year, our legislative delegation. It doesn't take away from one or the other. It's just that we're a member of this association. We will still have, and we still have supported, and I think we've already passed our local platform that we're going to be talking about. So one doesn't exclude the other.
Okay. Mrs. Zucker.
For our audience, I'd like to explain something. The consortium, the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, is comprised of 11 different counties: Pinellas, Sarasota, Charlotte, Lee, Collier, Monroe, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, St. Lucie, and Indian River. They represent 42% of the student population of all of Florida. And their property tax base, they represent 55% of the tax base for all of Florida, these 11 counties. And the legislative members, we represent 51% of the state of Florida in these 11 districts. It's very important for us to be a member of this consortium with that powerful a group that we have before us that can lobby with us for the things that we need, because they have a voice because of the impact of the student population, the property tax base, and the legislative members that are part of this consortium.
And Mrs. Ziegler attended several meetings this year as the past president of the consortium. She just Mrs. Zucker. These Z's. I've never been around this many C's. Mrs. Zucker was the past president of the consortium, and she just attended a meeting last month in on the East Coast to discuss these things, and we did discuss it at the last workshop. Mm-hmm. And so, are there any other, Mrs. Ziegler?
Again, I appreciate it. It was just an opportunity to bring up, and I understand the separation, although there's a lot of stuff on there in addition to that that's quite broad. Again, a lot of great things that I support and agree with. However, I did want to bring up in this conversation that it would be nice when, as we discuss the next item, is that we would have one specific to Sarasota. That was it. I appreciate the conversation.
Okay. So, if that ends our discussion, could we please vote on this?
Mm-hmm. Second. Or excuse me.
I don't know that you have a line to vote on the computer on this.
We don't.
So you need to do a voice vote.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carry. 5-0. It passes. Next new business item is item number 38. May I have a motion, please?
Where do I get there? I would recommend that the proposal of Becker and Pollock to provide state legislative services in an amount not to exceed, but I would like to change this 3-year period for a 1-year period, be approved as presented. How do I do that?
I don't have in front of me the bid documents or the proposal documents. I'm not sure.
This is $230,000 for a 3-year period. So
my understanding, and I may be incorrect about this, so I'd invite staff members who may be here with more knowledge than I to correct me. But the proposal was a 3-year proposal. However, there is an opportunity for the board to terminate the agreement short of 3 years. So you're not required to continue the services for the entire 3 years.
I was under the impression that we could recommend a 1-year period, and we did not have to do a 3-year period. I do understand what the RFP was, but I was under the impression that I could change this motion to make it a 1 year, to see how they were doing, to see if we wanted to continue with the rest of the second and third year.
You have that right to choose to not extend it, but the RFP was advertised as a potential 3-year commitment, and to change it, the very contract means that I believe that then the RFP would not be valid. You still have the ability to make a decision once you have gone through, if you're dissatisfied or for whatever, without cause. You can simply indicate that you no longer would like to extend those services, but it was advertised, and their RFP response was based on a potential of a 3-year. And that's why it says not to exceed, which doesn't guarantee that it will be up to that amount, and can be modified at the pleasure of the board.
And again, I'm not speaking specifically about this one, but in many of your contracts, you have that kind of situation. Even if it's for a 1 year, many contracts have built within it a 30 or 60 or 90-day period that it can be terminated, typically by either party, without cause.
To follow up, well, the board cannot commit to 1 year, more than 1 year at a time, because the board, no matter what it says, the board itself can only commit to 1 year because of our budget and because of we don't know who's going to be here. So we can't commit for 2 and 3 years down the road.
Right, although you have a number of contracts that extend beyond that, but they have a termination provision in them, which gives the board, and sometimes the other party as well, the opportunity without cause to terminate the contract with usually a certain amount of written notice. And honestly, I don't know exactly what this RFP provides for, but I believe that while it may be up to 3 years, the board has the opportunity to terminate the contract well short of those 3 years on a particular part of notice. And I don't know if that's 30 days.
I think it's 30 days.
30 days.
But most of your contracts, most of your bid processes are for multiple years with that type of clause that allows you to make a decision otherwise given appropriate notice. But typically, an RFP process is an expensive process for companies to go through, and so you want to show them that there is a potential of multiple years. But both parties then agree finally to the ability to withdraw given a certain amount of notice.
It also typically locks in, from the
Yes.
positive for the school board, it locks in a price for a multi-year period unless someone terminates the contract.
I'd also like it known that I did speak to the superintendent prior to bringing this up here right now. I didn't just bring it up. I spoke to the superintendent.
Well, I apologize if I misunderstood, but the provision that was clear was the ability without cause to not have a continuation, but the bid was for a potential of 3 years.
Mrs. Brown.
I'm sorry that our speakers earlier left. But I wanted to say that one of the things that I think we will get by having this contract and having our own lobbyist would be that we can talk to our legislators during session. I know how difficult it is to get to them as things are going through. And when our legislators are not sitting on education committees, they don't hear as much from the people representing FSBA and the consortium and any of the other education groups. So they aren't as aware of what is happening and how these things affect it. You can see the legislation in front of you. You can hear what your staff is telling you or what the majority and minority office is telling you. But unless you hear from your district on how this affects you, how this affects your district, they don't hear it. And we can't possibly keep up with that and talk to them. So I'm thinking by having this lobbying firm representing us and having that open line of communication, and one of the things that is on the platform for the consortium, the FSBA, and I believe even our local, is to look at those high-stakes tests. Because we're hearing from parents, we're hearing from teachers, we're hearing from students. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on these, but what we need to do is increase our voice to Tallahassee, and I think this is one way of doing this, and that's why I'm supporting hiring this lobbying firm. And again, I'm looking at the agreement with $72,000 a year, and if we're not happy with any of the results, we can cancel it afterwards.
I don't think we have a motion on the floor at the moment.
All right, I'll make that motion. I move that the proposal of Becker Polikoff to provide state legislative services in an amount not to exceed $230,000 for a 3-year period be approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kovach.
Well, we've been talking about this, I think, probably since the spring, I think, is when we workshopped and talked about it. And my views really haven't changed any since they did in the spring. I'm not going to support this. It has nothing to do with the process or the company that we're deciding to go with. Just like we talked about with item 12, we pay substantial dues to the consortium. We pay substantial dues to FSBA. We all personally know, all of our legislators, I just don't see spending $80,000 a year. I think the district could find more important uses of $80,000 a year than hiring a lobbyist for, maybe just call me a cynic. I've been at this a long time, and I've seen I have to give you credit for what happened with the with SCTI Northport, obviously the state money, but I've just never seen where lobbyists for a small to mid-sized school district at $80,000 a year botch any legislation. So I'm not going to be supporting this.
Mrs. Zucker.
I agree that we need to hire a lobbyist or a lobbying firm, but I know we went out for an RFP, but I feel I have had no input in this process, and I have had no input as to who we hire. I've had no input, and as a result of that, I'm not happy with signing for a 3-year period for have a state legislative services that I know nothing about other than what was on paper. I just have a problem supporting this.
Well, I too have a problem in the process. I would have liked to have had the opportunity to interview, for our school board to interview, and that is something that we need to change. This is not buying tile. This is not buying a commodity. This is a service, and we will all be involved with these folks. I hope they do a good job. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm going to support it, but I'm going to be looking very carefully at this at the end of the year. And if it is not correct or it's not good and we aren't getting our money's worth, I think we should look at other options because it's very important to us, I feel. And we did have some luck last year with getting extra money for the district, and it was a wonderful thing. And I know that our legislative delegation has said to us that it is important for us to be treated seriously, to have a lobbyist. And they've all said that to us. And it's some great things that we can do in spreading the word of what's important in Sarasota County, in Tallahassee, and that's really where some of these decisions are made. As Mrs. Brown stated, this is really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, on high stakes testing and all of the things that now the statutes that have been passed into law. And the things that we are forced to do. We asked the legislature to stop and to hold off and to give us a chance to breathe for 3 years, and that didn't happen. And we've all had some serious pain and serious effort for that. So I hope it works, but I am going to support it and look forward to it and go forward from this point in time. So Mrs. Brown, you're up next.
Several years ago, probably maybe 5 or so, we used to have a lobbyist. I think we were paying somewhere $50,000, $55,000. And we'd meet on Mondays via telephone for an hour or less, and we'd get emails every day about clips. And I didn't feel that this person was providing us the types of services we need, so I made the motion at that time, and the board supported me, to fire that lobbyist, to get rid of him. But my hope was, it was also a time when we were making, strategic budget cuts, and I definitely thought, and I'd agree with it, we were wasting our money at that time. I would like to see, and I see that the proposal that was put forward was very specific on what it was we wanted. Frankly, from what we were getting before to what we're getting now for the extra money, I think it's like another less than $20,000, and it is $72,000 for the first year, and I would assume thereafter. Hopefully, we will get that line of communication. It's not that we know our legislators and that we say hello to them at a cocktail party. We need to be able to talk to them as the bills are going through. I saw when we were up there when Senate Bill 6 passed, was it 4 years ago, or so, and got vetoed. Those things change on a daily basis when we're up there, and somebody has to be there. We couldn't possibly catch the plane or drive to get there in order to get there at those meetings. We need somebody with their feet on the ground. And this firm not only has their feet on the ground in Tallahassee, but also represents a few large school districts. So they'll hit the ground running, as we say. And they also have an office here in Sarasota. So it'll be an easy link between us. I wasn't real thrilled when I first saw this on the agenda. I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. We're doing this? I haven't even heard about this. But I met with the superintendent and looked over what the practices were of other school districts. And other school districts also do not have the school board choosing something like this and put them up for a RFP without school board input. I would have liked to have had input, but I can understand how that input could sour the process. So I will be supporting this.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I agree. Again, I think everyone here, the process of being involved, Superintendent White and I discussed this, and I raised my concerns about the fact that this particular firm represents two very large districts, and maybe not, that's kind of where my conversation with the other item came into play, just wanting to make sure that if we commit to this and spend the money, that I want to make sure that we have a very clear process of how they're going to represent us. And if I'm going to approve this amount that we're going to pay, you confirmed that we could opt out after a year, within 30 days, excuse me, correct? So we're not locked into that 3 year, because again, I think that was a concern, I guess, for all of us. And second, to make sure that how do they determine our needs over, Miami-Dade or Broward? So again, that kind of ties back into where my topic of conversation was prior to this. And as Mr. Kovach said, a lot of us know a lot of the members of the legislature here, but I do think that there is benefit to having someone who will speak loudly for us as well. But I don't disagree that process-wise we should maybe look at that and be more involved. But again, I do see the value in this. So,
Mrs. Zucker.
The amount we paid was $20,000. So $20,000 is, yes, it's a little bit less than the $70,000 that we're looking at now. And some of the school boards do have input, do input, and they do review. It's however the school board chooses to go. So we can do it with an input. I will support this motion for the 1 year, but I will be looking at it in 1 year to see how we're faring. And if I don't feel we're getting our money's worth, well, then I hope that my colleagues will support me and pull it.
Mrs. White.
And I appreciate the feedback. When this first came to my attention that a majority of the board wanted to seek a lobbyist, and as you recall, that was a discussion at a workshop, I asked our procurement person, Pat Black, to begin that process. And traditionally in this district, we really safeguard the RFP process to make sure that it is above reproach. And you all know Pat Black, and she runs a tight ship, and I really follow her advice. So she looked around at other districts and got a bid, and then we sent out the one piece that very much you needed to have input was the services that you're provided, because they are to provide service, and that's what we put on an email to get input. But they were it was hard to think of anything else from the list of services that were from the RFP that we had generated from other districts. So there are differing processes, it's different interpretation that certainly could be considered in the future. I just caution all of us as we look at those processes that we make sure that we safeguard the integrity of our procurement process that we should be very proud of. You should be proud of how it is when we get a protest. It is very unlikely that they will win because we are so careful that we are not allowing any influencing of that process. And I know that's not what you intend either. So as we look towards evaluating these services to see if they're appropriate, or if at a future date you want to seek another provider of these services and you want to be more involved, then we'll certainly structure a process that you could have that input with the protections that we all want, that it is objective and that it's not in any way influencing the decision by being an individual board member, but as a district and as a board, that we have that type of very fair, open, transparent process. So that's all we ask, and certainly this was just following our typical bid process that we do not have the board involvement until it comes to the recommendation at the agenda. But I hear the feedback, and we will see how things work with this, what I think is looks to be a very outstanding company in terms of the services that they could provide you. But that will be left to you to evaluate, and we'll have a process that you can really do that evaluation and give feedback to this company as well. So I thank you.
I just want to say Pat Black does a fabulous job, so this in no way reflects anything about our procurement process or purchasing or that entire service and process, Pat. It really has nothing to do with our individual professionalism, which is exemplary, and the job that you do. So I didn't want that to be taken in any way but the way that it was intended. Mrs. Zucker.
I'm certainly not asking to be part of the RFP process, because I don't believe that any of us should sit on any of those committees where we can have undue influence. So that is, I'm saying that we should structure a different way. When the board feels it should have input, we should structure a different way of obtaining a service. That's what